The old admiral stood on the bridge of his warship and watched the blue planet below. Earth looked peaceful from space. Green lands and blue oceans covered its surface. But Admiral Marcus Chun knew something was very wrong down there. He had spent 40 years serving humanity. He had fought pirates near Jupiter. He had destroyed alien raiders near the outer colonies. But now he faced an enemy he could not shoot. The message had come 3 days ago from his daughter. She worked as a security officer in the Senate building on Earth. Her words still burned in his mind. She had written only 6 words before the communication ended. "Father, the senators are not human." Marcus did not sleep after reading those words. He investigated quietly. He pulled old records. He watched videos of Senate meetings from 10 years ago and compared them to recent ones. The changes were small but real. Senators who once loved their families now showed no emotion. Leaders who had strong opinions suddenly agreed with everything. The entire human government had changed without anyone noticing. His second-in-command walked onto the bridge. Captain Sarah Wong was young but smart. She had noticed the same problems Marcus had seen. The fleet had received strange orders lately. Ships were being sent to distant places for no good reason. Military bases near Earth were being closed. The defense network was being weakened piece by piece. Sarah spoke quietly, so the crew could not hear. "Admiral, I found what you were looking for. There is an alien species called the Velthrani in our old contact records. They were discovered 200 years ago, but all information about them was classified and then deleted. I found backup files in an abandoned station near Neptune." Marcus took the data tablet from her hands. He read quickly, and his face grew pale. The Velthrani were masters of biological manipulation. They could create parasites that attached to the brain stems of intelligent species. These parasites did not kill their hosts. Instead, they controlled them completely. The host would look normal. They would talk normal. They would remember their old lives. But every decision they made came from the Velthrani collective mind. The old records showed that humanity had met the Velthrani during early space exploration. A brief conflict had happened. Humans had won and pushed the Velthrani back to their home system. Then all records were erased. Someone had wanted humanity to forget this enemy existed. Now Marcus understood. The Velthrani had not forgotten humanity. They had waited patiently. They had learned from their defeat. This time, they did not send warships. They sent parasites hidden in trade goods and diplomatic gifts. They infected one senator at a time, one general at a time, one corporate leader at a time. Now they controlled Earth without firing a single shot. The Imperial fleet was the last piece they needed. Once the admirals were infected, humanity would have no defense left. The Velthrani could then move openly. They could spread their parasites to every human colony. Billions of people would become puppets dancing on alien strings. Marcus called a secret meeting in his private quarters. He invited only officers he had known for decades. Men and women who had served beside him in real combat. People whose minds he could trust because he had watched them make decisions under pressure that no parasite would allow. 12 officers gathered in the small room. Marcus explained everything. He showed them the old records. He showed them the evidence of changed behavior in the Senate. He played the message from his daughter. Some officers looked angry. Some looked scared. None of them looked surprised. They had all felt that something was wrong for a long time. Admiral Chun laid out his plan. It was simple, but extremely dangerous. The fleet would return to Earth orbit under the excuse of a training exercise. Then they would broadcast the truth to every human colony at once. They would jam all government communications so the infected senators could not give orders. Finally, they would secure Earth and find a way to remove the parasites. Captain Wong raised the obvious problem. "Sir, we do not know how to remove the parasites. If we try to capture the infected people, we might kill them. These are still human beings. They are victims, not enemies." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know. but we have no choice. If we do nothing, humanity ends. Not with a bang, but with silent surrender. I would rather die fighting than live as a puppet. The fleet moved toward Earth over the next week. Marcus kept all communications normal. He sent boring reports about training exercises and supply requests. The infected admirals at headquarters suspected nothing. They were too confident. They believed their control was complete. On the 7th day, the fleet entered Earth orbit. 43 warships pointed their weapons at the planet below. Marcus knew most of those weapons would never be used. This was not a war against Earth. This was a rescue mission. But he needed the threat to be real. He needed the infected senators to stay quiet while he spoke to the people. The broadcast began at noon Earth time. Every screen on the planet showed the old admiral's face. Every speaker carried his voice. He told humanity the truth. He explained the Velthrani and their parasites. He showed the evidence he had gathered. He named the senators who were infected. He told the people that the fleet was here to protect them, not attack them. The reaction was immediate chaos. Riots exploded in some cities as people panicked, but other cities remained calm. People had felt that their leaders were wrong for years. Now they had proof. Local police and military units began securing government buildings. They arrested infected officials carefully, keeping them alive for treatment. The infected senators tried to fight back. They ordered military units loyal to them to attack the fleet. But Marcus had planned for this. His ships were positioned perfectly. They destroyed the attacking missiles and drones without harming the cities below. The infected senators realized their puppet strings had been cut. They had no power left. Marcus landed on Earth 3 days later. His Marines had secured the Senate building. The infected senators were being held in special medical facilities. Scientists were already working on removing the parasites without killing the hosts. Early results were promising. The parasites could be killed with specific sound frequencies that did not harm human tissue. But the battle was not over. The Velthrani still had their home system. They still had ships and soldiers and more parasites. Marcus knew they would come for revenge. This time, humanity needed to be ready. The admiral walked through the Senate chamber. The seats were empty now. Dust covered the desks where infected senators had made decisions that weakened humanity for a decade. Marcus felt old. He had saved his species today. But tomorrow there would be more work. There was always more work. His daughter met him outside the building. She had survived the chaos. She was one of the first people to notice the strange behavior in the senators. Her warning had started this whole liberation. Marcus hugged her tightly. She reminded him why he fought. Not for glory or power, for family. For the next generation. For the children who deserved to grow up free. The recovery took years. The parasites were removed from thousands of infected humans. Most victims recovered fully. They remembered everything the Velthrani had made them do. Many needed mental health treatment to deal with the trauma of being controlled, but they were alive and free. That was what mattered. The Imperial fleet was rebuilt stronger than before. New ships with better weapons joined the old ones. Humanity had learned from this attack. They would never let their guard down again. Every new senator was scanned for parasites before taking office. Every admiral was tested regularly. Trust was important, but verification was required. 5 years after the liberation, Marcus led the fleet toward Velthrani space. Humanity had decided not to wait for another attack. They would end this threat permanently, not through genocide, but through overwhelming force. The Velthrani would surrender their parasite technology. They would accept human observers in their system, or they would face destruction. The Velthrani had never seen a united humanity before. During their first contact, humans were scattered and weak. Now humanity spoke with one voice and carried a very big stick. The aliens looked at the massive fleet in their sky and calculated their odds. They chose surrender. Marcus stood on the surface of the Velthrani homeworld as the peace treaty was signed. The alien leaders looked strange. Their bodies were soft and flexible like octopuses. Their eyes showed intelligence and cunning. They had almost conquered humanity through patience and tricks. But they had underestimated human determination. The old admiral spoke to the Velthrani leader directly. "You thought you could control us. You thought we were weak because we fight among ourselves. But you made a mistake. When humans face a true threat, we become one people. We become a fist instead of fingers. You pulled our strings for 10 years. Now those strings are cut forever." The alien leader responded in broken human language. "We will remember this lesson. Humans are dangerous. Humans are unpredictable. We chose wrong prey." Marcus smiled coldly. "We are not prey. We never were. We simply had not met a predator worth uniting against. Thank you for giving us that reason. You made us stronger." The fleet returned home as heroes. Parades filled every city on Earth. Marcus received medals and honors from every human colony. But he did not care about those things. He cared about the future. He cared about the humanity that would exist long after he was gone. On his final day in uniform, Admiral Marcus Chun visited the memorial that had been built for victims of the Velthrani infiltration. Thousands of names were carved in the black stone. People who had died during the chaos. People who had killed themselves when they realized what they had done while controlled. Each name represented a tragedy that could not be undone. Marcus placed his hand on the cold stone. He made a promise to the dead. Humanity would never be caught sleeping again. The Puppeteers had controlled the Senate once. The fleet had cut those strings. But the real victory was the awareness that came after. Humanity now knew that the universe was full of dangers. Some enemies came with guns. Some came with whispers and parasites. Both would be defeated by the same weapon. Human determination. Human unity. Human refusal to surrender. The stars above seemed brighter that night. They were no longer mysterious points of light. They were destinations. They were challenges. They were the future that humanity would claim through blood and courage. The Puppeteers were gone. The strings were cut. And humanity walked forward into the darkness, afraid of nothing.